Turbocharged 51 over here. I hope you're having a splendid day wherever you are in the world. We're back with the Motorsport Lounge to have our review of the 2021 Emilia Romagna Grand Prix, the second round of the F1 2021 World Championship. And I'm once again joined by my very good friend Super Boosted. How are you today?
I'm doing good, and
I'm doing fine. So guys, like I said with the previous podcast, which I did myself, these podcasts can be anything from 2 minutes to 2 hours. So be ready to listen to a lot of crap talk. Okay guys, we're going to jump straight into it. Let's not waste any time. Before we get started, remember to drop a like down below on the video. Whenever you start to enjoy yourself, go check out the links in the description down below. And make sure if you're new to the channel to hit that subscribe down below. Don't forget to ding that bell to never miss a future episode. But I'm going to remind you again at the end of the video. So let's get straight into it. First point, and I'm sure Super Boosters will agree with me on this, we need to bring these old Formula 1 tracks back to the calendar permanently. Our first talking point is bring Imola back permanently.
yes, I don't care. Yes, Imola is a hard track to overtake. You need to be a good driver or use the DRS zone. But every driver on the grid didn't even complain. They love driving the whole track.
Yeah, I mean, to take a quote from Lando Norris, which we're going to talk about also in a minute, even Norris said Imola has started to become one of his favorite tracks because it's a driver's track. It's you, the car, on the track. It's not all these fancy other things that distract you. It's just you, the car, on the track. And I think that's what all the modern F1 drivers that they crave, that the older generation of F1 drivers had. With the modern technologies helping the drivers so much, I think these are the tracks that also, because the drivers enjoy them, we're going to have better racing because they feel more comfortable to go for risky moves.
And if you think about it, yes, it's a hard track to overtake, but if you go look at a race, they could follow each other. They were close. They were either in a second or so. Yeah, I had to get the last corners spot on to overtake him, so it was a driver's circuit and they enjoyed it as much as I did.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the end of the race where it was Hamilton, Sainz, Leclerc, and Norris battling away for second place, those four cars were all within 1 second of each other, so they were constantly within DRS. And even Mr. Complain himself, Lewis Hamilton, didn't complain about dirty air once.
He didn't complain about the dirty air, I think. But at that moment, because he was so far back, he was just, okay, I can't complain, I need to drive.
Yeah, I think Hamilton has figured out very early in this championship that his main championship rival is Max Verstappen.
Yeah, and there is no boundary for mistakes like he did.
Yes, I mean, we're only at round 2 and there's only one championship point in the championship between Max and Lewis, and Bottas' sides of the garage.
Yes, they didn't have a good weekend. Latifi crashed out in the start.
Yeah, literally in lap 1.
In lap 1. And the crash with Bottas and Russell. There's no one to blame. It was a racing accident.
Yeah. I think the FIA ruled it as a racing accident, if I'm not mistaken. But Williams, after having probably the best qualifying they've had in about 2 years, the race did not go their way. I was really sad for the entire Williams team, because I mean, even Latifi, like I said with the previous podcast, Latifi is starting to match Russell's pace a lot closer than he did the last season. And if Latifi keeps getting better like this and Williams keep developing that car, Williams can be a very big team in next season. I think if they get the car into the midfield, they're going to be massive contenders.
Yeah, if they can get next year's car in the midfield, everyone's going to be so glad. And with Russell's racecraft, he drove brilliantly. He drove the hell out of that car.
Yeah, and I mean, let's just quickly realize what happened. Russell in a Williams was about to overtake a Mercedes.
Yeah, that's how this track turned the tables. Bottas had a bad weekend from the beginning.
Yeah,
he qualified P8.
Yeah, he just didn't show up in quali at all. I don't know what went wrong.
He was not. He left this. He was really at the next circuit at that point.
already going on his way to Portimao. Nice catch. Super Boots nearly let his controller fall, but what a catch.
Those reactions. And if you think of it, it was not for P10, it was for P9.
Yeah. So I really think if the race just was a little bit better for them and the car wasn't such an absolute donkey on the rear end, I think that's what also cost Latifi. The car is really unstable on the rear. I think if it wasn't for that factor, I think both the Williams would maybe have gotten points. If Latifi didn't get points, I think he would have finished in the top 12, but Russell most definitely would have gotten points. Hey. But it's clear that Imola just doesn't like Russell. If you look at last year's safety car spin and this year a very scary crash with Bottas, I think which had a lot of us worry if you know the history of Imola. But luckily both drivers are okay. But still, Russell, that kid just gets faster race by race. I don't know how he gains his pace, but he just gets faster every single race.
I know this sounds rude, but in my personal opinion, I think Russell needs to stay just a little bit longer at Williams, because like last year when he went to the Mercedes for that one race, he was excellent, but I think the Williams will teach him to be better.
Also true, because he has to fight a lot harder for points. And I totally agree with you on that, Boosted. Russell is an exceptional driver, and in my personal opinion, he's for sure world champion in the future if he gets the right car underneath him.
Yes.
But I agree with you on that fact that the longer he stays in these backmarker / midfield teams, the more his racecraft is going to develop and the better driver he's going to become. He's already phenomenal, but every driver knows that they can be a little bit better than the previous race.
Yeah, if you don't improve, you're going backwards in this type of career.
Unfortunately, with any motorsport, that is the thing. If you don't get better race by race, you're going backwards. No wonder Kimi has stayed for 165 years, but in any case.
Let's get to the third points.
Yes. Okay, guys. Me and Boosted, before we mention the point, me and Boosted said in the pre-season prediction videos that we think McLaren are a lot closer to Red Bull and Mercedes than everybody thinks. And I think this weekend at Imola proved it. Yeah. Norris, if he didn't have his lap deleted at the end of Q3, he would have qualified in P3 ahead of Verstappen. He would have split the two Red Bulls, and the only people who would have beaten him would have been Hamilton and Perez. And the point we're trying to make is McLaren has exceptionally impressive pace, especially in qualifying trim. The race they did well as they also did exceptional, but I think Ferrari bridged the race pace to McLaren a little bit more. But excuse my terrible English, quali pace specifically, the McLaren is bloody quick.
Yeah, the quali they are quick. With the new Mercedes engine they have, the power they have now, the much needed power, and with their luck being a high rake car they have, I think they set up this car brilliantly for this year, and it only can get better.
Yeah, and I think, after pre-season testing there was a whole kerfuffle about the other teams trying to say that McLaren's rear diffuser was illegal, but I think the fact that also that was revealed that it's not illegal, the fact that they've got the Mercedes power unit with that rear diffuser, the McLaren in my opinion is the most stable car when it comes to the rear end. I mean, we saw throughout the weekend Mercedes was struggling with the rear end, even Red Bull was struggling with the rear end. All the teams struggled with the rear end at Imola because it's so rear end friendly, if I can put it that way. But the McLaren was just planted, especially those first two chicanes. Those are the quarters where the drivers struggled the most for rear end grip, and I can't remember an instance throughout practice or qualifying or even the race where either Norris or Ricciardo struggled with rear end grip, even with the wet conditions.
They didn't struggle with those first two chicanes, and I would, for my opinion, I would also say the last few corners, that last two main corners, you need to worry about. The second last going on that downhill.
Oh yeah.
Because a lot of drivers struggle with that exit. You can easily go so wide.
And the thing is, if you go wide, you're directly into the gravel.
Yeah.
So there's no runoff except for that massive curb, but there's no runoff after the curb. So guys, honestly, McLaren haven't stated yet whether they're going to stop development somewhere throughout the season. And I personally think if they keep developing this car like they're doing it now, by the end of the season, Red Bull and Mercedes have got a problem.
Yeah, I think if they can continue on this pace that they are now, and Norris can continue on this pace, he will start to sneak in to that drivers and constructors. Well, if Ricciardo can follow with their pace, they will start to sneak up with the drivers and constructors championship.
I totally agree with you, and I know a few people that are going to watch us are going to be like, that's a bold statement to make, but that, guys, the proof is in the pudding. I mean, if you look at Bahrain, Lando finished P4, and Ricciardo, who had floor damage, finished in P7, and Perez, who finished in P5 behind Lando, he couldn't catch Lando. The last few laps where Perez was on fresher tires, he couldn't bridge the gap to Lando. No. And then also, when you just talked about Ricciardo, yes, Ricciardo is still adjusting to the car, but we all know how quick Danny Rick can be. If Danny Rick starts to match Lando, and that McLaren keeps developing, especially with Perez and Bottas not having a good season thus far, Red Bull and Mercedes have got a problem. And like we said with the pre-season predictions, if Mercedes and Red Bull, like Mercedes actually had this weekend, if they've got a bad weekend for both cars, McLaren are the next team to take the win.
Yeah, because I think Perez, yes, he's getting used to the car, but I think personally for me, Bottas is way further back than he should be.
No, that's a fact. I mean, he qualified P8. At some stage in the race, he was fighting for P12 and P11. He wasn't even in the points. And when he finally got back into the points, he was starting to get overtaken by Williams. And then they just decided they wanted to kiss each other. Okay, and after the Russell-Bottas crash, I honestly don't feel Bottas would have gone forward in the race at all. No. Even, okay, if you take the crash out of consideration, there wouldn't have been a red flag. But yeah, Bottas just, I don't know what to say about Bottas. He's really just proving the point that somebody else deserves that seat. I wanted to say Russell, but we literally just talked about Russell should stay at Williams, but he's just proving the point that somebody else deserves that seat.
Yeah, I think they keeping him that seat because I don't want to say he's easy, but he listens to the team. I think they sort of know he's not as in the fight as Hamilton is.
The thing is, they don't want a situation again like with Rosberg, where Rosberg, when he was in the championship fight, he didn't care. So yeah, I don't know what to say about Bottas. I always have a soft spot for Bottas, and I've always believed that he's going to do better and better and better, but every year he just keeps on disappointing me.
This year is easily the worst.
Yeah, he started this year extremely bad. There's still 21 races to go, but we'll see what happens. Okay, moving on to the fourth point, guys. Otherwise, we're going to talk for literally, I think, 10 hours. Raikkonen doing what Raikkonen does best. Now, we know Raikkonen received a penalty at the end of the race, which dropped him out of the points. But oh my freaking word, that 165-year-old can bloody drive.
Yeah, he can. He really can drive. Just something else.
Yeah, guys, I talked to Booster just before we started the video about a meme that I saw on Instagram. Not a meme, but a post that I saw on Instagram where they took the young age of Yuki Tsunoda. Yuki Tsunoda made 10 positions in the race, and Raikkonen being the oldest driver on the grid who made 11 positions throughout the race. And at the end of the post, they just said age is just a number, and that is so true.
Yeah, it's so true.
Raikkonen, even though we're going to talk about Tsunoda a little bit later on, I was very disappointed with Tsunoda, even though he had made some fantastic moves. But Raikkonen, just like I always say, Raikkonen was on fire. And it shows with the tricky conditions that experience does count. Because Raikkonen, I mean, how did he... That Alpha already isn't the best on the rear end. Once again, the main problem this year for the teams are the rear end instabilities. But Raikkonen just kept that car in a straight line. And he drove a spectacular race. He finished in P9 before the penalty. He had 2 points for Alfa Romeo.
Yeah, he finished in P9, and if I just looked at the results, he actually was still ahead after the penalty ahead of his teammate. So I think Giovinazzi, he still needs to learn.
Yeah, Giovinazzi...
The old guy.
Giovinazzi still got a lot of pace to gain before he matches Kimi. But guys, literally all I want to say about that is fantastic drive from Kimi Raikkonen. And really, if he keeps doing this, I think Alpha I think Alfa Romeo are going to have about 30 to 40 points at the end of the year when it comes to the constructors. Kimi just being Kimi. Well done to Raikkonen. I really think he's going to stay in the sport for a fair few years more than people think. But and it's clear he's still got a lot of pace in him. So well done to Raikkonen. Guys, on to the next point. And I know, especially a lot of my viewers, because I'm so salty towards Hamilton, and obviously the other members of the Motorsport Lounge, we don't like Hamilton. But guys, even though the red flag did help him, what a recovery from Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah, you have to give credit where credit is due.
Yes.
He went from P9 and Imola being our track, I would say, but he's in the second fastest car in the team. After his mistake, that was just for me a desperate mistake what he did with going off. He still recovered very good for me personally. As much I wanted him not get on the podium, he did get on the podium.
No, I mean, even in my dad, when we were busy watching the race, when Hamilton sat behind Sainz when he was back in P6, even me and my dad said, we know he was going to get Sainz, but I was so hopeful that Leclerc and Norris would keep him behind, that he would finish P5. But like you say, Hamilton is still in a Mercedes. He's still in the second fastest car on the grid, and he is a 7-time world champion, one of the most experienced drivers on the grid. And even though he made the mistake, he had a fantastic drive.
Yeah, he made up for his mistake.
Yes, he definitely did. And I wonder if Mercedes were like, Bottas, make sure you take out Russell so we can have a red flag, otherwise Lewis is screwed.
I thought that when the accident happens, because it was so good luck for him.
It was literally 30 seconds after he went off.
Okay, Bottas, Hamilton crash, Russell now.
Oh guys, it's just a joke, but still, that once again, the one thing that I despise about Hamilton, he always gets the good luck. He always has good luck, but
how
still.
He gets it, I don't know. I want to talk to him, give me some of the good luck. I think he gets the world's good luck and you just get the bad luck.
Also true. No, but guys, like Booster said, give credit where credit is due. Well done to Lewis Hamilton for recovering into P2 and actually defending his leading position in the championship. Yes, Verstappen is now only 1 point behind, but he caught up to P2 and still got the fastest lap, which it speaks volumes about how good Hamilton really is. So well done to Hamilton. And going into a second driver who recovered fantastically after I feel AlphaTauri screwed him for the first about 20 laps, keeping him out on the wets. Well done to Pierre Gasly for finishing in P7 after he was literally, I think when they took him from wets to Inters, like Booster said, he was literally just ahead of the two Haas cars. He was behind everybody, and I think it was 8 laps later, it was time for slicks. So he literally, yes, the red flag must have helped him as well, but still, Gasly drove himself back into the points, and P7 is fantastic. He finished, okay, obviously Bottas crashed, but he finished ahead of a Mercedes, ahead of a Red Bull, and he was behind the cars that we believe are the third and fourth quickest, the McLarens and the Ferraris. So, well done to Pierre Gasly. Gasly, I'm still calling it, he will be a future world champion. That kid's got talent.
There's so many potential future champions in this driver lineup.
While we're on the point subject there, we're going to add a point, you guys. I quickly want... Okay, moving on to the next point, guys. Guys, all I said was Scenario 7 Norris. But what I honestly want to say is I don't even think Scenario 7 exists anymore. I think it's Scenario 8 Lando. Lando is in a world of his own at the start of 2021. Lando is surpassing, I think, everybody's expectations.
I think this year he decided, okay, last year I got a podium, I did good. This year I'm going for it.
I mean, guys, like when Super Boost slip up, let's say for instance a scenario like last year with the Sakhir Grand Prix, where Perez won. If you have a situation like that, the two cars to beat, in my opinion, are Norris and Ricciardo. The McLaren is so fast, but until Ricciardo catches up to Lando, he is my next best bet to win a Grand Prix.
Yeah. Him and Leclerc.
Okay, yeah, Leclerc definitely. I still think the Ferrari needs a little bit more pace before he can get to that level. But bloody hell, Lando Norris, This kid, and I mean, I think he's a year older than me, or 2 years older than me. What's Lando, 23? 22 or 23? I'm 21, turning 22 this year. This kid can literally be my big brother if it's ever you have a weird situation like that. And he is competing with the best in Formula 1. It's his 3rd season. Some people still classify first 3 seasons as a rookie. He's not a rookie anymore, in my opinion, not at all.
How he's driving, he's not a rookie.
And he's beating Ricciardo convincingly. Yes, Ricciardo's still getting used to the car, but it's still Daniel frickin' Ricciardo, a multiple-time race winner. Lando is just on another level, and just like Kimi, well done, Lando. Well done. I can't wait to see what he does the rest of this season. Now, the next part, it's a little bit of pride from my side, but I think Ferrari made the Italian fans, the Tifosi, I think they made them proud. P4 and P5 at an Italian track, where last year they struggled to get points.
Yeah, their recovery from last year, that's the best. Personally, for me, it's the best recovery they did from last year, because I think everyone thought they won't do as good as they did, and they just are blowing everyone's predictions out of the water.
No, I totally agree with you. I mean, even myself, being a Ferrari fan, Ferrari runs freaking through my veins, I swear. I love Ferrari. But even I thought at the beginning of the season, giving them P4 in the constructors is a bit of a long shot, and I'm so glad that I said that, because Ferrari is the 4th quickest car in my opinion after McLaren. And looking how close they were this weekend to McLaren's pace, you never know. If Ferrari really pull their fingers out of their heinies, they might be with McLaren on the rear ends of Mercedes and Red Bull come the end of the season. And I'm just so glad that Ferrari aren't where they were last year, or even worse. I mean, guys, I boosted the post on Instagram. I DM'd him the post. Ferrari, yes, last year's car was absolutely terrible, but Ferrari, with this whole new floor regulation where they lost so much downforce, Ferrari is the team that lost the least amount of time with the 2021 car. The qualifying at Imola last year was Leclerc who qualified the best at Imola, and the Ferrari was only 4/10. This year's Ferrari was only 4/10 slower than last year's car. All the other teams were at least, I think it was 8.5 to 9/10 or a second plus slower than last year, and that is exceptional development from Ferrari in my opinion, because we know, even though the car according to F1 was slow, but last year's cars were the quickest cars we had in Formula 1 history. And they only lost 0.4 of a second. That is mind-boggling.
Yeah, that was brilliant. I think with last year they really went and did their homework. They said, okay, we really need to start focusing, because if we can't pray just for horsepower and hope we can turn. They really did their homework. Yeah, I mean, and you even said in the pre-season prediction video that you hope Ferrari don't just focus on just the power, and they focus actually on the aero and the chassis, which they now proved that they did. Yeah, they bettered the engine, and the car itself is a better car, chassis and aerodynamic wise. So well done to Ferrari. You guys, even though I'm not an Italian, you made the Tifosi proud. Well done this weekend, and I hope when we get to Monza later this year that we can have a Ferrari on the podium. I hope and pray, even though that's a very small chance, I really hope for that. Never say never.
Yeah, I mean, look what happened last year at Monza. Gasly! In any case, let's move on. Guys, the final 2 points, and I think me and Booster are going to differ here, but I think Yuki Tsunoda had an absolutely terrible weekend. Coming off of his high at Bahrain, qualifying wasn't the best, but once again, AlphaTauri screwed him a bit with the tires and back at Bahrain in qualifying. But Yuki crashed out on his first run in Q1, and he made a good recovery in the race because he also had a 5-place grid penalty for changing the gearbox. But he still started. Yeah, he started P19. Vettel started in the pits, and he recovered well too within the points. But as soon after the red flag and the safety car restart, he spun at the most stupid point on the track because he went too hot into the corner. Yuki, I mean, if you look at Gasly, who also didn't have the best start to the race, and he recovered to P7, and I know Yuki can be as quick as Gasly. Yuki really threw away solid points for AlphaTauri this weekend.
Yeah, I think he was, I want to say over-eager. He pushed himself too hard. He pushed at the limits he couldn't keep up with.
Yeah, that's true. And yes, guys, I do understand. Tsunoda really still is a rookie. I mean,
he's the same age as me.
Yeah.
You are older.
Yeah, I'm older than Yuki Tsunoda. But I mean, Yuki he was in Formula 4, halfway through the season was promoted to Formula 3. The season after he ended Formula 3, went into Formula 2, drove one season, and now he's in Formula 1. I think Yuki, he said it himself, he's his worst critic. And I think he knows that he messed up this weekend, but I just expected a little bit more from Yuki coming from his Japanese racing background, because like we said with the preseason prediction video, Yuki, the Japanese racing scene is extremely competitive.
Yeah.
And I just feel Yuki should have known better before he went for that very late. I think he actually went for a move on one of the Alpha. I think he actually went for a move on Gio when he spun, and I just think he should have waited a bit. There was still a fair few laps to go, and if he didn't spin, he would have gotten into the points.
Yeah, I think he was just over-eager. He was starting to become a little bit desperate moves. He was starting to become desperate. He needs to get this done.
And the thing is also, I think it's something that I think is going to be a big factor for Gasly and Tsunoda is they know the AlphaTauri is quick this year. They know that car is close to the McLaren and the Ferrari. And I think because of that, I think Franz Tost, the team principal at AlphaTauri, I think they realize this can be one of the seasons where they do really good. And I mean, if AlphaTauri can get P5, even if they are behind Ferrari and McLaren at the end of the season, if they get P5 in the constructors, that's a massive amount of money for them. With the budget cap coming in next year, the big budget cap coming in next year, that's a lot of money for AlphaTauri, and I think they realize that.
I think that's why I'm pushing, and I think I want to push them to become better. Just overhaul, because they want to confirm their place in the mid team to higher places.
I mean, Franz Tost said it last year that they understand that they are the second Red Bull team, but that doesn't mean they can't get closer to Red Bull. They know that there will be a problem if they ever are quicker than Red Bull, but that doesn't mean that they can't bridge the gap closer towards Red Bull. And I think that's AlphaTauri's main goal at this stage, is just to start getting closer to that Red Bull. I mean, that car's front end is a Red Bull.
Yeah.
And I really have high hopes for AlphaTauri, but we can all admit the first two races is not the way they would have wanted to start the season. I think they would have wanted a lot more points, but still 21 races to go, and I think if AlphaTauri get their stuff together, they can still have a good battle with Ferrari and McLaren for P3 in the constructors. Not that I think they're going to be in P3, but even P5 will be a massive reward for a small team like AlphaTauri.
That will the prize money difference from all the places, that will help them a lot for next year's car.
And I mean, even just the bragging rights to say that they finished ahead of Alpine and Aston Martin, which now Aston Martin with the backup bank of Lawrence Stroll, and I mean Alpine being the Renault F1 team, basically those are two massive teams. To have the bragging rights as a small team to say we finished ahead of Alpine and Aston Martin, that's big.
And those are the two teams that fought for third place.
Yes. Exactly. So it's gonna. I really think it's AlphaTauri still got a lot to give this season, but not just Tsunoda. Gasly have to sort out the issues, and AlphaTauri need to sort out their strategies, because they cost Tsunoda 3 weeks ago in Bahrain, and this week they cost Gasly a lot of points, because I think he would have been with Sainz, Leclerc, and Norris at the end of the race if they didn't screw him over with the strategy.
Yeah, because it was Stroll that also went on the wets in the start.
Yeah.
The race. And when they noticed Stroll was losing pace on the wets, they hit him as soon as possible, and Gasly just stood out. And if you listen to the radios, every time they said no, it's going to rain more, it's going to rain more. But They just wasted time.
Yeah, they wasted a lot of time. So I'm not disappointed in Gasly specifically, but I'm disappointed in AlphaTauri as a team this week. Just for the way they screwed over Gasly, in my opinion, and just Tsunoda. He was a little bit over eager, but he still got a lot to learn. Guys, into the final point that I want to make, and I know I have been very hard on this specific driver the past few years, and for a long time I was part of that whole thing of his dad pays for him to be an F1. But guys, well freaking done from Lance Stroll. This kid is really starting to prove me otherwise, and I've completely ditched the whole thing about he's bought himself into F1. He's a Formula 4 and a Formula 3 world champion, if I'm not mistaken. I know he's Formula 4. I'm not certain about Formula 3. He did fantastically in Formula 2. And he's now in F1, and he's really, every season he gets a bit better. He's not developing as quickly as I would have hoped he would have developed, but he's a solid driver now. And I mean, finishing in P8 with him and Vettel both struggling the whole race with gearbox sinking issues, and the Aston Martin just not appreciating the wet conditions. Well done to Lance Stroll to still get 4 points in P8. That is an absolutely phenomenal performance from Lance Stroll, in my opinion.
And he also had a bad spot with him going on the wet tires, as we said. But good strategy call, go to the right tire. Don't waste time. If you overthink of what tire you have to be, you're on the road.
Yes. So, guys, that has been all the points we've talked about, but just one more time I want to say well done to Lance Stroll, and let's hope his development keeps going at this rate, or even some bit quicker. Now guys, for this next part, you guys are not going to hear a lot from Super Boosted. I'm quickly going to explain to you guys what we are doing. Now, you guys know in last week's video we rated every driver out of 10. Now, to make this series a little bit more interesting, we're going to do a teams or constructors championship as well. Now, the only way that works is each driver gets a point out of 10, we plus those 2 points together, and then it's a point out of 20 for the team. It works like if the teams get points in the race. So last week, Haas got, after the Bahrain Grand Prix, the video that we did last week, but for the race that was about 3 to 4 weeks ago, Haas had a total of 8 out of 20, Williams also had 8 out of 20, Alfa Romeo 14 out of 20, Aston Martin 10 out of 20, Alpine 10 out of 20, AlphaTauri 14 out of 20, McLaren 17 out of 20, Ferrari 18 out of 20, Red Bull 21 out of 20, and Mercedes 16 out of 20. Now guys, remember the 21 out of 20? When we feel a driver has like overachieved in a weekend, we give them an 11 out of 10, meaning that it was literally a perfect weekend. And obviously when you count that together with the constructors, that still means that there is a possibility that they can get 21 out of 10. So basically they just get 21 points. And Mercedes ended on 16 out of 20. Now after last week, we're going to put the teams in order. So we're going to see at the end of the season how our constructors championship looks over the real life one, just for a little bit of fun. So last week, tied for 9th place was Haas and Williams on 8 points. Tied for 7th was Aston Martin and Alpine on 10 points. Tied for 5th was Alfa Romeo and AlphaTauri, the two Alphas, on 14 points. 4th place was Mercedes with 16 points. McLaren were in 3rd with 17 points. Ferrari were in 2nd with 18 points. And Red Bull were in 1st with 21 points. Now this week we're going to do the same. So later on in the video you guys are going to see where the teams stack up, because obviously these points are going to get plussed with the points we gave them this week, and then we're going to see where everybody stacks up. We're not going to do that for the drivers. It's just for the constructors. Every week the drivers, we're just going to rate them on their race performance. So just keep that in mind. Now, Super Boosted, let's come back to you. The Emilia Romagna Grand Prix points ratings from our two. Now, you can start off with the two Haas drivers.
Almost easy. Okay, for the points, Mazepin got 2 out of 10. I think he still has way too much, a lot to learn.
Yeah.
If you look at the practice sessions and stuff, places where he spun, especially, I can't remember if he spun on the last corner or the second last corner.
I think he spun at both, if I'm not mistaken.
And if you look, he just touches the gravel and then he spins. And it's not like no one else did it. A lot of the drivers, they found time where you just kiss that gravel with your rear tire, and you've gained a little bit of points if you do it correctly.
Yeah.
And he didn't do it.
Yeah, Mazepin to me, he's just too eager on the throttle. When he comes out of a corner, his foot's flat. And Mazepin, guys, me and you guys know Craigleton from my league racing. We both talked about it last year, and we just feel he doesn't deserve to be in Formula One. He's not experienced enough. He's still a little bit, I want to say, this is going to sound so rude, but he's still too childlike when it comes to his racing etiquette. He's just, he does things without thinking. He doesn't think things through properly, and then he makes stupid mistakes, like first of all at Bahrain, spinning out a T3, just flat footing it in dirty air and with cold tires on heavy fuel. And this week, I mean, I know the crash between him and Latifi on the first lap was a racing incident. I don't feel it was Mazepin's fault, but he spun in the race, I think, twice, so they just didn't show on camera. But even in qualifying, he was nearly a second slower than Schumacher.
Yeah,
in the same car.
In the same car, and I know they are the back marketing now, and that just shows because it's easy to say with Schumacher. Schumacher is 3 out of 10. I think it just shows that the car is slower than it was expected, and they are saying they're not really gonna develop this year, and it's sad for me because they're missing out in so much. They already gave up on this year just for the next year.
Look, I can see why they're doing it, because they know the car's slow this year and they want to use the extra sponsor money from Mazepin and Schumacher sponsors to develop next year's car. But still, I feel they're taking away opportunities from Schumacher especially. And even if Mazepin gets himself ready, even from him, but mainly they're taking so much opportunities away from Schumacher, putting him in that absolute donkey of a car. And like Booster said, guys, Schumacher got a 3 out of 10. Schumacher didn't have the best weekend. I mean, he spun with the first safety car. After the first few laps, he spun behind the safety car, broke his front wing. He had to stay out on track for like 2 laps because the pit lane was closed. And the lap that they pitted him was the lap when the safety car came in. And Schumacher he didn't have the best race, but still he did better than Mazepin. So Mazepin gets a 2 out of 10 and Schumi a 3 out of 10. Now going on to Williams. Now guys, I didn't want to give Latifi this little amount of points, but unfortunately he ruined it for himself on the race. Exceptional qualifying performance from Latifi. Getting himself up into P14, into Q2 for the first time in his career, and not being far behind George Russell. Well done to Nicholas Latifi, but unfortunately he really screwed himself over in the beginning of the race. So Latifi gets a 3 out of 10. And George Russell, even though he was in a crash, he had a fantastic race up until that point, as well as qualifying. So I think Russell, we both agreed to give him a 6 out of 10. Great performance from George Russell, and I don't think there's much more to say about the 2 Williams boys. So Turbo, go in towards the 2 Alfa Romeos.
Okay. Well, the Alfa Romeos that Giovinazzi got 4 out of 10, and Raikkonen, being the wise old man, he got 9 out of 10. Why can't I speak? 9 out of 10.
Yes, guys, look, Giovinazzi had a bit of an underwhelming performance. He didn't have much camera time, and he was just sat at the top of at the back of the top 10, like just outside of the points the whole time. So there wasn't much to say about Gio. Mediocre qualifying performance, and not too bad in the race. So a 4 out of 10. But Raikkonen, like we talked already at the beginning of the video, well done to Kimi. I think he deserves that 9 out of 10. Yes. Unfortunately, I think it would have been a 10 out of 10 if he didn't have the penalty. Unfortunately, the penalty was his mistake for speeding with safety car restart. That's the main reason for the penalty. But still, a 9 out of 10, well deserved from Kimi. Moving in towards the 2 Aston Martins, Sebastian Vettel. Guys, both Aston Martins struggled the whole race with gearbox syncing issues, and still both of them drove well. Vettel not as well as Stroll, but I think Vettel deserves a 5 out of 10. Much better performance than 3 weeks ago in Bahrain. And guys, like I said, Stroll, well done to him, and we gave Stroll an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I think Vettel, because I think with this him being a
four-time world champion.
Four-time world champion. In parts of us know he still needs to get used to the car, and parts of us knows he is so good driver, but he's not showing it. His confidence is not as good as it was.
Yeah, Vettel needs that one standout performance like he had in Turkey last year where he got onto the podium, but he needs a performance like that in, I want to say in the dry, in proper race conditions to get his confidence back. And second big thing, which Aston Martin are really struggling with this year, they're struggling with reliability, so they're not helping Vettel's case.
Yeah, they're struggling, and that's really hard to stay motivated if the car you're driving is not as good as it can be.
Yes, and we know the Aston Martin can be quick. I mean, it's still a 2019 Mercedes, not that we're going to talk about that.
But okay, well, if you think about it, I think that's one way they messed up, because I can't remember the seat principal's name.
Otmar Schaffner. I can't pronounce his name properly, but Otmar.
He wants to go to the FIA because he believes they sort of try to deliberately, in his sort of words, indirect words. I'm not saying he saw that, but he thinks that they deliberately made the low rate cars, Aston Martin, Mercedes, slower, and they knew the high rate cars are going to be better.
Look, even though he said that, and he's trying to, well, not, as you say, not taking his words directly, but as you say, he's trying to deliberately try and make a mid-season rule change, which I don't feel is fair. But even Toto Wolff at Mercedes, and Mercedes are struggling, guys. Mercedes are used to being, at this stage of the season, like a second ahead of all the other cars. Mercedes are struggling, and even Toto Wolff said that is not a proper reason to go to the FIA. That's how Formula One works, that's how the development cycle works, and you need to play the cards you were dealt.
Yeah, you need to, and if I remember correctly, on reason there will be a mid-season change of rules is if all the teams find the rule change that happened this year is unsafe. And it's not unsafe, it's just they didn't build a proper car.
Yeah, they were still banking on the lower rake system that the Mercedes slash Racing Point slash Aston Martin slash Force India, whatever, used. And yeah, it's just this year's not their year, and they need to realize that, and then start focusing on getting what they can with the car, and then focusing on next year. But it doesn't help. Excuse my language, I will bleep this, but they can't bitch about everything just because they think they are now the ones that have been put back on purposely by the FIA, because that's just a bunch of crap.
Yeah, it's really too greedy and actually kind of selfish, because all the teams, everyone knew about rules, and everyone tried to sort of in their own way, like McLaren with the diffuser. Everyone tried in their own way to make the car as good as it can be. And I think Mercedes aren't complaining as much as Aston Martin because they love this challenge. This is something they didn't have for a good couple of years.
Since 2018.
Since 2018. And even 2018 they didn't have that type of worry about the constructors. They just had for the drivers.
Yeah, because of Vettel. But yeah, so I just think Aston Martin are busy biting at air. They don't have a proper case, and obviously that whole thing is going to get rejected by the FIA, because I mean even their biggest sister team Mercedes said they're not gonna deem it as unsafe or some other reason so that the rules can get changed. So I think Aston Martin in that perspective from Otmar, I'm not going to try and pronounce his surname, from Otmar and Lawrence Stroll, that is just a bit selfish and unappreciative from them.
Unsportsmanlike.
Yeah, unsportsmanlike. Thank you. You got the word better than I did. But guys, moving on before we start raging about Aston Martin, moving into Alpine. What a performance from Esteban Ocon.
Yes.
He out-qualified and outraced Alonso, and guys, it's not really been shown on any of the social media platforms, but for those of you guys that don't know, at the start of the race, Giovinazzi did run slightly, very softly into the rear end of Alonso's Alpine, and Alonso did have rear diffuser damage. That is why Alonso struggled throughout the race with pace. But with all that said and done, Ocon was the better driver this weekend for Alpine, and well done to Ocon. So we gave Ocon a 7 out of 10 and Alonso a 6 out of 10.
Yeah, I think Alonso could have got more if he had delivered, if he beats Ocon in qualifying.
Yeah.
Because with the accident that happens in the race, he couldn't do anything.
Yeah, he couldn't do anything about it.
You can't do anything. You can't. He did the best he could. So I believe he did. He got those 6 points from the race, but that little bit more he could have got in qualifying should have helped.
Yeah, but we'll see what happens in 2 weeks at Portimao between Alonso and Ocon, but I think this is going to be an interesting teammate battle to look at now. I think Ocon realizes now he needs to pull his finger out of his high knee if he wants to beat Alonso.
I think, and vice versa, because I think with the start of the year, you can't cover it. I think Alonso tried to cover it, but at the start of the year, Alonso was cocky and he said he is gonna be the reason why the Alpine is fast, and he quickly realized he is not as quick as he thought he was gonna be.
Yeah, true. I think the car was a bit of a let down, but that is just now, cockiness doesn't bring you anywhere in the world, and even I was disappointed at Alonso saying that, because he is still my role model. But this is just going to be a season of more maturity for Alonso. So let's see what happens throughout the rest of the season. And Boosted, you've got the cue for the 2 AlphaTauri drivers.
In the AlphaTauris, Tsunoda got 3 out of 10 because the accident in qualifying and the weird, I would say, spins in a race. And Gasly doing a great recovery with the team putting on the wrong tires, because I don't know why they put on the wets. He did a really good recovery, and that's why we gave him 8 out of 10.
Yes, guys, brilliant drive from Gasly to recover after really being thrown for the wolves at the end of the first stint. Really well done from Gasly. And Tsunoda, just not a very impressive weekend, but still he's got a lot to learn. Moving into Hey guys, Turbocharged 51 over here. Guys, just a quick thing. This has been part 1 of the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix podcast. Part 2 is already posted. It's literally the video above this one, so go check it out. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and go check out the links in the description down below. I love you guys, and I'll see y'all for part 2 of this podcast. Cheers!